Hey everybody, this is Roman again, and I'd like to talk about markets real quick in this little demo session. So essentially markets is our terminology for being able to run a couple of multi-country stores from just one Shopify store instance, really. So essentially just one Shopify store, but then you configure it in a way that it can, sell products and services to different countries. Now, the key to this functionality is here in this markets section or part of the admin. This is our demo store here. You can already see a couple of regions and countries that are already active. And let me just briefly create a new market so you can really see how easy and fast it is to create it. And essentially it means you just configure it and you don't have to code a single thing, which is great, I think. So you hit create market and let's just call this Denmark. And it includes the countries of Denmark, right? So that's the first thing that we do. So it's really easy. So we're starting a new, let's say, a market, and it has a couple of features here already. It recognizes that Danish krone is the currency, and it has a dynamic currency calculation here as well. And then a couple of things that you can already set up again without coding anything. So for example, we could talk about, hey, what is it that folks would use if they would access the Danish web store that we're building right now? So in this case, it's still all products. So it's essentially inheriting from the master catalog here, but we can go on and say, well, it's actually the Danish catalog that's in here, and it carries a few products, not necessarily all of them. And there's also a way for us to talk about, okay, so what is the primary domain, or do we use another subfolder? So we could talk about a specific subdomain that we want to use for this market. We can also later on add a top level domain if you wanted to. We can add different languages to this as well. And then other settings would be, include taxes and duties and all these things that you would have to set depending on where in the world you are. So this is really it. And let me just briefly go to catalogs here, because I think this is interesting. This is a list of all the catalogs, and you've seen already that I've created one for Denmark, which is this one here. And it automatically calculates the price based on the base currency, I think, which is euros in this case. So it's calculating the prices. You can either use a certain percentage to decrease or increase the prices. You can also do this manually here, and you can also say, well, those are the ones that are currently in my catalog, but I might want to, for some reason, exclude those from the catalog. So those products that I've just selected are then excluded in this catalog, meaning you can actually model a situation where you create a new market, but you don't want to necessarily expose or show all products that you have in those markets. And last but not least, the nice thing that we also built in, just to make it easy for you to see, what's going on behind the scenes, it's this sort of nice overview here. We can really see the different kind of parts of the business model that you're trying to build here, and what you have done in terms of customization. Last thing I want to highlight is it's great to have this market, obviously, but in true Shopify session, what this allows you to do as well is the theme customizer, which we talked about earlier, which is the way in which you can manipulate a theme. Essentially, it's our no-code/low-code solution to build a nice looking storefront. It also has this new context that's kind of in this drop down here. So if you go to Denmark, in this case, you can build like a completely customized experience just for the Danish market. So again, makes it very, very flexible to really define what needs to be kind of very specific for this market, and then build it on Shopify without having to run multiple stores and sync all those stores, which would mean extra effort. All right, so I think that makes sense. Thanks for joining, and I see you soon. Bye.